Welcome to calm, dreamy sleep, a peaceful place where stories become dreams. Just relax and slowly close your eyes. Take a gentle breath in and let the day quietly drift away. If this story brings you peace, if you feel calmer, lighter, please subscribe and like. So let's start. In a cottage at the edge of a great northern forest, Daria lived with her father and her dog, Victor. The cottage was small but warm, with a roof that sloped under the weight of winter snow and windows that glowed like amber in the long darkness. Her father was a woodcutter, a man with hands roughened by years of work, but a heart as soft as the wool she knitted by the fire. Her mother had been gone since Daria was very young. A whisper of a memory, a scent of lavender, a lullaby half remembered. But Daria was not unhappy. She had the forest, with its secrets and its silences. She had the rhythm of the seasons, the smell of bread baking, the sound of her father's boots on the frozen path. And she had Victor. Victor was a dog of such size and presence that strangers sometimes stopped in the road, unsure whether to call him a wolf. His fur was the color of charcoal and silver, his eyes the pale blue of a winter sky. He had been with Daria since she was a child, a gift from her father after the long winter when her mother left. He was her shadow, her guardian, her heart on four legs. When Daria was old enough to understand, her father told her that he wished to marry again. The cottage was quiet in the evenings, and he was lonely. Daria understood. She had only faint memories of her mother, a voice humming, a hand smoothing her hair. If her father could find love again, she would welcome it. And so a woman named Helena came to live with them, bringing her daughter, Sylvie. For a time, there was hope. Daria had always wanted a sister. She imagined them sharing secrets, brushing each other's hair, walking together through the forest. But Helena had other plans. She was a woman who measured worth in appearances, who compared and contrasted, who could not bear to see another shine more brightly than her own daughter. And Daria, with her quiet grace, her gentle laughter, her natural goodness, shone like the morning star. The harder Daria tried to please her stepmother, the more Helena found fault. If Daria was kind, she was called simple. If she was quiet, she was called sullen. If she worked hard, she was trying to show off. If she rested, she was lazy. Sylvie watched from the shadows, not cruel, but weak. And weakness guided by a strong will becomes its own kind of cruelty. Daria bore it all with patience. She had learned from the northern winters that storms eventually pass, that the sun always returns. And she had Victor. When the words cut too deep, when the unfairness stung like ice on bare skin, She would bury her face in his thick fur, and he would lean against her, solid and warm and true. One came the day when Daria's father had to journey to the village. Winter was approaching, and the demand for firewood was great. He would be gone for 2 days. The morning of his departure was clear and cold. Frost sparkled on every surface, and the breath of the horses rose in white clouds as they were hitched to the wagon. Daria hugged her father tightly, longer than usual, as if some part of her sensed that everything was about to change. Victor sat at her heels, his pale blue eyes following the wagon until it disappeared into the trees. Then Daria turned and walked back into the cottage, into a silence that felt suddenly heavy, charged with something she could not name, like a secret waiting to be told. The day passed quietly. Helena and Sylvie went about their chores, speaking little. Daria kept to her small room, reading by the window, watching the light fade. But in Helena's mind, a plan was forming. A plan to rid herself of Daria once and for all. Late in the afternoon, with the winter sunset only an hour away, Daria was pulled from her book by a commotion downstairs. Helena's voice, raised in distress, echoed up the narrow stairs. Daria descended quickly, her heart beating faster. What could be wrong? The front door stood wide open. Cold air poured into the kitchen. Helena wrung her hands, her face pale. "Daria," she cried. "The wind blew the door open, and Victor, he ran off." Daria's eyes darted around the room. She checked by the stove where Victor loved to lie. She checked the corners. She called his name. Nothing. Without a word, she grabbed her woolen wrap and ran outside into the fading light. She searched the yard. She searched the sheds. She called until her voice grew hoarse. But only the wind answered. When she returned to the door, breathless and frightened, Helena pointed toward the trail that led deep into the forest. "If you are quick," she said, "you may catch him." Daria did not think. She did not consider that she wore only a light wrap, that night was falling, that the forest was vast and wild. She ran. As the girl disappeared into the deepening gloom, Helena closed the door. She crossed to the pantry. She opened it. There, curled contentedly on a pile of sacks, finishing a plate of warm pancakes, sat Victor. He looked up at her with innocent eyes, tail thumping softly against the floor. He had been there all along. Helena and Sylvie exchanged a glance, their laughter smothered behind their hands. And in the forest, Daria walked deeper and deeper, calling a name that could not answer, like a single star appearing in a dark sky. She walked until the light was gone, until the trees all looked the same, until her feet were numb and her voice was nothing but a whisper. It was only then that she realized the truth. She was lost. The cold crept through her thin wrap and settled into her bones. Her teeth began to chatter. Her fingers grew stiff. She stumbled through the darkness, over roots and under branches, until she found a small clearing fringed by evergreens. She crawled beneath their low-hanging branches, pulled her wrap tight around her, and tried to rest. She was just beginning to drift into an uneasy sleep when something changed. The air around her seemed to drop in temperature, not gradually, but all at once, as if the world had drawn a sharp breath. Her nose tingled. The forest whispered in a language she could not understand. She opened her eyes. The clearing was no longer empty. Like magic unfolding, a figure stood in the center of the clearing. He was tall, clad in robes that seemed woven from moonlight and frost. His hair was the color of winter dawn, and his eyes, when he turned to look at her, were the deep blue of a frozen lake, yet somehow warm. His arms moved slowly, gracefully, as if conducting an invisible orchestra. And where his fingers passed, the air sparkled with fragments of light, like crushed diamonds, like frozen starlight. Wherever they landed, the world transformed. Green boughs turned white, grass became crystalline. The forest floor glittered as if coated in sugar. He was painting the world with winter, making it new, making it beautiful. And then he saw her. Was stopped. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The forest held its breath. The snow sparkled in the pale light of the rising moon. Then he spoke. His voice was like the first snowfall of the year, soft and magical. "My goodness," he said. "Where did you come from?" Daria tried to answer, but her voice would not come. She could only stare at him, at the impossible beauty of his presence. He folded his arms and considered her. Then he shook his head. "Well, miss," he said, "you cannot stay here. I am about to layer this entire forest in a deep winter freeze, and you will not find it comfortable for sleeping." Daria finally found her voice. I do not mean to interrupt," she said. "Please continue your work." He raised an eyebrow. "You would rather stay here in the cold than let me take you somewhere warm?" Daria shook her head. "I have nowhere to go. I am lost, and wandering in the dark seems worse than being cold." He studied her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. It was a small smile, but it reached his eyes. "You are brave," he said. "Or perhaps just foolish. Either way, I admire it." He bowed, low and graceful. "I am Kale," he said, "keeper of winter, guardian of the frost. And you, lost girl, are the first person to ever interrupt my work without making me want to turn you into a snowdrift." Daria managed a small laugh. "I am Daria," she said, "and I am sorry to be such a bother." Kale looked at her thin wrap, her trembling hands, the stubborn tilt of her chin. "You are freezing," he said, "and I have much work to do tonight, but I cannot leave you here." He offered his hand. "Come, my sleigh is nearby. There are blankets, warm drink, and perhaps, if you are willing, a story or two." Daria hesitated. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand. His fingers were cool, but not cold. There was something steady in his grip, something that made her feel, for the first time since she had run into the forest, that she might be safe. The sleigh was tucked beneath a cluster of ancient pines, its silver runners catching the moonlight. A horse as white as fresh snow stood patiently, its breath rising in soft clouds. Kale helped her inside, and Daria sank into a seat of red velvet piled with soft woolen blankets. She wrapped herself in them, pulling them up to her chin, and felt the warmth begin to seep into her bones. He snapped his fingers. From nowhere, a silver tray appeared, holding a steaming mug that smelled of cinnamon and cloves. She took it with trembling hands and sipped. The warmth spread through her chest, loosening the tightness that had been there since she stepped into the forest. Kale climbed in beside her and took the reins. The sleigh glided forward, silent as a dream, and the forest began to move past them in a blur of silver and shadow. "Now," he said, his voice low and warm, "tell me how a girl like you came to be lost in my woods on a night like this." Warm and reflective, and Daria told him. She told him about Victor, about Helena, about the open door and the pancakes and the long, cold walk into the darkness. Kale listened in silence, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he said nothing for a long moment. Then he reached into his coat and brought out a small box wrapped in silver paper. "I have 2 pieces of good news," he said. Daria looked at the box, then at him. "The first," he said, "is that these are the most delicious chocolates you will ever taste." He handed her the box. She opened it to find delicate treats shaped like snowflakes and stars. "The second," he said, a hint of a smile in his voice, "is that I know exactly where your cottage is, and I will take you home." Returning to the warmth, to the journey, to the beginning of something new. And so the sleigh carried her through the magical forest, past trees that bowed as they passed, past streams that sang in voices of ice and air, past a sky filled with stars that seemed to spin just for them. Kale told her stories of his realm, of the first frost, of the dance of the northern lights, of the ancient pact between winter and the world. And Daria listened, wrapped in wool and wonder, feeling something she had never felt before. It was not until they pulled into her yard, until she saw the familiar shape of the cottage and the light burning in the window, that she realized her cheeks were wet. She had not been crying. It was the cold, perhaps. Or perhaps it was something else entirely. Kale helped her down and made to close the sleigh door. "The blanket," she began, reaching to remove it from her shoulders. "No," he said. "Keep it. Consider it a gift." He paused, looking down at her. "And Daria?" "Yes?" He smiled, a real smile, warm and true. "Next time you wander into my woods, wear a warmer coat." She watched him go, the sleigh dissolving into the night like a dream upon waking. Then she turned to the door. It swung open before she could knock. Victor sat on the threshold, tail wagging, tongue lolling, as if he had never been away. She fell to her knees and buried her face in his fur. And though she did not know then how he had come to be there, though she did not know the deception that had led her into the forest, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Nothing would ever be the same. Because she had found something in the frost that night. Something she had not been looking for, but would carry with her forever. The memory of a voice like falling snow. The warmth of a hand that should have been cold. The beginning of a story that was only just beginning. Thanks for listening and liking our stories. Before moving towards second story, please subscribe, like, and hit that bell icon for more upcoming exciting fairy tales. Tonight's story is now gently coming to an end. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for listening. You don't need to do anything now. Just rest. Let your thoughts grow quiet, one by one, like candles being softly blown out. The soft sounds you hear, the gentle rain, the quiet hush of the world outside. They will continue to play, slowly, softly, steadily, guiding you deeper and deeper into comfortable, natural sleep. Close your eyes now. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands rest open. Let your breath grow slow and easy. There is nothing to carry with you tonight. No thoughts to hold, no worries to keep. Only this quiet moment, only this gentle stillness. Allow yourself to drift away now, like a leaf on still water, like a cloud across a silent moon. Deeper and deeper and deeper still. Good night and sweet dreams.